You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked.
Hey everyone, this is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
We decided to go for a fun movie, a classic, or now a
Yes.
classic because it's about 36 years old, 1987. We are going to talk about Moonstruck with Cher.
Cher, because we love to stay relevant with things.
Yes. She is relevant. She's been relevant throughout the generations.
I don't think she's ever stopped being relevant, to be honest.
Right,
Because
exactly.
She really pivots really well, and she's just amazing.
She
What is she,
is.
like 70 something, and she probably still
I think
looks
she's
20?
80. I
Holy
think she's
cow.
80 something. She's pretty, if not, she's close to it. She's in her late 70s, but
Yeah.
her
It
80s,
looks
I don't
good.
know.
She looks good. We'll talk about, but I'm sure she looked older in the movie than she does now.
She definitely did. For sure. It was, I think, yeah, we were talking about that she almost could pass for around the same age, or even she looks older in 87 than she does in 2023. It's insane. Cher ages in reverse,
Yes.
and she is phenomenal. We love her. We love her different phases, her, crazy outfits that are fantastic for her, and her shouting, booming voice. But we especially love her in Moonstruck and how she had to have an Italian accent. And I thought she did a great job as an actress. I thought she was pretty good in her acting roles. Because she's been in other things.
I can't remember if was Mermaids before. Was it Mermaid? The one
Mermaids was with Winona Ryder.
Was that before, or I think that might have been after? Because that was in the mid 90s.
It was definitely around that time, I think, as Moonstruck. It was a similar time.
It seemed like it was Cher. You have Mask. You have this. You have So it was
era of Cher.
Yeah, it was the era of Cher during that time. But
really was.
I really enjoyed rewatching this movie.
Yeah, I did too. It was like a little time warp. I just looked it up. It's 1990 was Mermaids, so it was about 3 years after. But yeah, it really it transported me back to the 80s. There were a lot of elements there. It was also Italian New York, the accents, the actors that were there. There were some classic actors that were, they were in their 60s, probably back in 87, who were portraying this Italian family that Cher, who played Loretta, that she came from. And I just thought the dynamics were wonderful. It had all the great kind of, stereotypes of an Italian family in New York. And Cher did the overemphasis of come on, Tony, and very over exaggerated. But I think we got to talk about Nicolas Cage and his accent.
I don't know how we could talk about this without mentioning Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, it would be a crime not to. I mean, so we all know Nicolas Cage is, he's got a very California accent. He's very surfer. Yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Cowabunga, that's what I always picture him as. I think it was hard for him to do this accent. And I think back in the 80s, there wasn't the amount of accent work that they do now. I think they try to be meticulous about it. Before, it was kind of go watch some, stereotypical Italian movies and get an accent from there kind of thing. And I think that's exactly what he did.
Well, yeah. Well, the whole thing, when she first meets him and he's by the oven with his tank top on and his fake hand, it's just.
Just for clarification, we are not laughing at the fake hand. We're just laughing at the ridiculousness that is Nicolas Cage. Because he is just he's kind of, he's just himself. He just is.
Just so over exaggerated. I know he didn't have anything to do with the props, but it was just everything was just so much. And just with it, even that first scene where he's introduced, it's oh gosh, here he is acting.
Here he is taking on another role. Yeah, I mean, and I know we're saying this in a very endearing way. I think we both love Nicolas Cage because of these qualities.
I was telling Tanya earlier that I think because of this movie, it has made me never miss a movie that Nicolas Cage has been in. I think I've seen every Nicolas Cage except maybe one or two of the newer ones I haven't seen yet. But I really do love him. And something about his bad acting, like how Keanu Reeves too.
Yes, I was just thinking that. Oh my gosh, yeah, that it's like it's so endearing. You're willing to pay money to watch them act that way because you love them so much. There's something about them.
Yeah, it might not be the best, but there's just something about it. And his acting was definitely not his finest, but he was all in. He was all in.
Certainly was. You could tell he practiced that at home. You could tell he practiced that speech about his hands, and how it came to be. You just knew it. You could see him practicing.
His anger at Lorena when she came in and mad about his brother Johnny. So there was a lot of passion there.
Yeah, he's a real passionate individual. So just kind of in some of the elements, I actually was thinking about that story where Loretta, the Cher's character, Loretta, she talks to him and she says, "You're a wolf and you did this to yourself," with how he, speaking about how he came to have his hand cut off.
His hand off, yeah.
And the bread slicer or something. And she's like, "You had to chew yourself out of freedom because, that's why you lost that girl, because you actually really didn't want that." And I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, that's really kind of, a little bit, well, it's certainly mental health, but psychological, kind of thing, that she was picking up on something immediately that was in her, first meeting him, or maybe her second time meeting him, that she was picking up on a characteristic of, hey, you actually made this fate for yourself because you extracted yourself from a situation that you weren't meant to be in, and you saw that.
Yeah, I heard that, but I don't think I heard it quite the same way. And I think you explaining it that way is spot on. It does make sense, like she was saying, this happened because maybe you didn't want it. You didn't subconsciously, you didn't want to be in this relationship. Not to go to the extreme of having your hand sliced off by a bread slicer.
Yeah. But kind of that symbolism of how a wolf, if they're caught in
a trap,
in a trap, they would gnaw their own paw off, and I thought that was really interesting. And then that connection with the wolf and the moon, Moonstruck kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting that she's able to see that about him, but she doesn't necessarily see that she herself has kind of gone against what she truly wants in this relationship with Johnny, the brother.
Yeah.
And has kind of said, okay, I'm going to go against what my true nature is, and I'm just going to marry for practicality.
Yeah.
And
what I was wondering too about, while you're saying that, I know she didn't really love Johnny, but did Johnny love her? Was Johnny just trapped in it too? Or was he, did he love her? Was it just a relationship of convenience for both of them? Was it something that was expected by their family, or was it something because they both were, he was probably much older. He looked like he was 70.
I think he was supposed to be 40, 42, I think they said, and she was 37. So they actually weren't too far apart, but it's just Cher is timeless. So, she always looks young.
He really did look like he was.
He did, yeah, especially with that's part of the 80s. Everybody looked 50 times older than they were, except for Cher. Yeah. But, that's a good question. And actually now when you think about, at the ending, and, these are all spoiler alerts, but hopefully you all have seen, this movie is almost 4 decades old. So, I mean, and you wouldn't be watching this without this. So we're just dissecting it.
Yeah.
But it's, he did say at the end, well, since the curse is, I was marrying you because I thought there was a curse. I thought it would help my mom. I thought it would help the curse with, my mom dying or whatever that was, kind of thing. He was kind of doing it for his own practical purposes as well. And then called it off when his mom miraculously got better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that wasn't really, and I know he was portrayed as such adult, so overbearingly as such adult.
Yeah.
But when he went to propose in the restaurant, he wasn't prepared, and I know he has to be told what to do. She's like, you got to have a ring, get down on your knee. You can't just ask me, these things. And people were commenting. They were like, yeah, you got to get the ring. You got to get the ring, buddy, blah, 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 the whole restaurant. But he was very much unaware and unprepared. So maybe it was kind of a spontaneous thought or something that he had thought about, but wasn't really fully into. So yeah, I think he probably wasn't as into it.
Yeah, because it seemed like a couple times even in the proposal, because it seemed like that one waiter knew, because he had told somebody else, like, hey, blah, 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 when the dessert comes, he's gonna ask her to marry him. And then it seemed like he wasn't fully in it. He's just like, you gotta get on one knee. Where's the ring? You gotta, I was just wondering if he ever really loved her, because you never hear them say I love you or anything like that throughout it.
And they don't kiss goodbye. Like when he goes to Palermo or Sicily, she drops him off at the airport and there's no kissing, there's no hugging, it's just kind of, she takes care of him almost the way a mother would. It's very like, here's your gum for your ears to pop, when your ears pop, and he's like, oh yeah, that happens. And she's like in some cough drops. And he's like, you always look out for me. You always care for me, which could be very, kind of like a wife, like traditional kind of role of that, or just kind of being a nice partner. But it also was kind of motherly because he seemed so incapable of taking care of himself. So it was almost kind of like she had to be like, get some gum so your ears don't pop, kind of that type of thing. That's kind of how it came off, at least to me. I don't know. But I do think there was a lot of, maybe he didn't seem to really know what he wanted. He was kind of just, as we'd say in Polish, a dupa, dumbass. But sorry, I don't know if I should have said that, but he really like leaving his luggage, when he came back from the airport, that was so painful just to see him like do it like 3 times. It's like, okay, we get it. He's adult. He's
also,
a dupa.
Tanya and I talked before. It's like, it almost seems like that was something that they should have, there's a few things that they should have probably edited. But it was like, all right, one time, okay, he left it with the taxi person started driving off. Okay. Oh, the second time he forgot again, huh? The third time, Loretta's mom, he's leaving it in the front foyer, it stopped being funny, like after the first time, at least to me. I felt like it was very trying to be slapstick or something.
It was too painfully drawn out. And it was kind of like that 80s sequence of we'll get a laugh from anywhere. And like you pointed this out, that the rest of the movie was not in that style of humor. So it just didn't really fit at that point. And that was towards the end, the scene that we're talking about. So it just didn't really work for me. But that's, them's the 80s, right? That's the thing with it. And yeah, so that's a good point. So they maybe didn't even have that feeling, that spark, but it seems like as soon as she met Nicolas Cage, Ronnie, his character Ronnie, as soon as she met him, she wasn't really feeling it, but he was kind of feeling something with her, and then drew her into this feeling of allowing herself to be like, okay, I actually can feel this. I can let myself feel this, because Loretta, she had married before for love. She had gone against her family's, ethos, their rules, their, kind of understanding, and really had, said, okay, I can marry later. I can marry for love rather than practicality and arrangement the way the rest of her family had done. And she waited to have a child, and then her husband was killed 2 years into the marriage, so she never got a child. And so she did things her own way. And so I think this time around, she was really suppressing her natural feelings on how things should be, and was like, okay, no, I have to take that's my bad luck. So I have to, take this natural, pragmatic course of like, loving someone who probably has good money, who would be a good provider, but I don't have feelings for him. Because in the first, I think one of the beginning scenes, when she tells her dad and then she goes in and tells her mom about the marriage, she says, do you love him? And she's like, no, immediately. She doesn't even like think about it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, because she's not even like, of course I do, mom. She's like,
yeah, no, she's like very upfront. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But with Ronnie, it's likened and symbolic to the moon drawing them together, or whatever, Cosmo's moon, as the silly uncle says, that it's the moon that draws them together and brings the woman to the man. And, so they kind of set Ronnie and Loretta up that way. But I thought that was really the use of superstition in the movie is fantastic. I loved it. I love that there was like in the beginning, Cher said the old lady was like, I put a curse on my sisters on that plane, because she took this man just out of spite. And Cher was like, I don't believe in curses. She's very much like, I'm not listening to all that stuff from like my family and this, that type of stuff.
Right.
But then she keeps saying, I have bad luck,
Yeah, which is very interesting too, because especially, certain cultures, certain families, traditions like that curses, and it's very ingrained in it. And it's funny too, in that scene, the old woman's like, I don't either. Like just
yeah. Oh yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah. So at the beginning and at the end, they tried to have some humor.
Yeah. In between. Yeah. It is interesting though. Like Cher or Loretta, she does probably have a lot of internal battles, like, because like even with her own cultures and, do I believe in superstitions or do I not? Do I believe, do I want to do the ways of my family or do I want to be more modern, less traditional,
Yeah.
Because even with, I was curious about, her husband was killed. I'm sorry. Like he didn't just die. He had to get hit by a bus.
I know. That was really, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's
really, they really want to make sure he's dead. And, but I thought it was interesting though, that it seemed, I don't know if it's because he died, that she was very kind of frumpy and let her, she was only like in her 30s. Like, so she's let her hair go gray. She's not, it just seemed like it's not.
She doesn't come full Cher until she gets that makeover.
It's not like the, like the stereotypical, let's have the makeover type of thing. But it seems like I was wondering if maybe she decided not to dye her hair because she had lost her husband, or if that was just expected, because it seemed like her father was upset.
Yeah, I think maybe there was a feeling that, the father said when she announced that she was going to get married, he was like, you have bad luck with this. Never in my marriage has someone ended up dead in 52 years. Like in yours, first one, someone's dead. So you have bad luck with this. Like this. So it was kind of her, like in her mind, I think, and through her father, probably the impression that she would just kind of be like a spinster and just kind of stay with, I hate that word, the spinster, but like stay with, her family and just kind of take care of them. And I think he just probably thought that's the way it's going to go. And, she kept saying, I'm 37, blah, blah, blah. But like, maybe back then that seemed kind of older and within their scope of the cultural lens, all that stuff. But yeah, it maybe was one of the reasons why she felt like, okay, I lost my husband. I think it was like 7 years before that. So she would have been like 30.
30, yeah.
But I think she probably wasn't really looking for that, because she seemed kind of shocked when Johnny proposed to her at the restaurant. I think she was just like, oh, this is just some guy I'm seeing. I don't know. He's all right. Yeah. And like, he didn't seem to know anything about her really. Like I mean, like somewhat, but I think she mentioned like, oh, I was married before. And he was like, you were married before? Like they hadn't even had that conversation. And here he is asking her to marry him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was strange. I was like, oh, they don't really even know each other.
Yeah. Because it wasn't the familiarity like with Johnny already happened oatmeal in the morning with the family. Yeah, he kind of invited himself over, but it did feel more comfortable where it seemed like the father and the mother, no one really liked to, the brother Johnny, they all like Ronnie.
Yeah, which is another thing, Johnny and Ronnie, like they had to make those names rhyme. I was like, that is so 80s and goofy and weird and just, yeah. That's about 80s. Yeah. And so what I really thought was interesting was while the father is pushing this dynamic, he himself is having an affair on the mother with Mona and in her hot pink dress at the opera. But, that he's been having this, it seemingly seems like kind of a long-term type of affair, or, he's been kind of flirting with her for a while, but we don't really know how long it is. And he's saying all that to his daughter. And when he runs into Loretta, his daughter, and Ronnie, kind of says something like, let's pretend like we just didn't see it. Let's not talk about this, but then is kind of ashamed of her and doesn't really think much of himself doing it. So there's kind of that like hypocrisy of like, I can do this, but you can't kind of thing. And maybe some of that traditional kind of, well, men stray, kind of thing. But like, maybe he has that thought, like thinking pattern of men are kind of allowed to do this, but if you're a woman, I think he called her some Italian name that means like, he said putana, which is, I mean, if you speak Italian, you know what I said. So trying to keep this, I already slipped up once, but basically, that she's maybe not the most virgin-esque person,
yeah, she's
I
not the
guess.
most pure.
Yeah, in his eyes. But he, it's kind of that I don't know, that brought me back to that thinking of, which can be in some traditional styles of families, cultural, or in American culture not too long ago, right? And still in, some people might think that way, that, it's like a man is kind of someone who can stray, whereas if a woman does it, she's not a good person.
Yeah.
She's this or she's
And
that.
And the family dynamics within that household were probably pretty intense, and it seemed like everyone had their roles. So the mother had a certain role. The grandfather's role was probably to be quiet. I don't know if it was his house originally. It was really hard to tell. So like he had his little role. Loretta's role was, be the good daughter, go to work, come home, just help mom around the house. He's like, okay, well, I'm the plumber and I'm allowed to make money and I don't have to tell you when I come.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I do agree the grandfather was an interesting character because at the end he does say, I'm old. You don't really get a hint that he really speaks English up until that point, but he says in English, like, I'm old, so I don't really I'm invisible kind of thing. I don't have like a place. So that kind of shows that's what he felt like. And the daughter-in-law, Loretta's mom, Olympia Dukakis, who I love, was playing that character, was a little kind of controlling of him, it seemed like, kind of like, you just kind of stay there, kind of thing in your role. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think there were so many roles that they were trying to fulfill.
It's interesting, though. Like if he said, I'm old, I'm invisible, or, I have to be quiet or whatever, that he chose to have 5 dogs. And that, so when he's walking them, he's not really that invisible and they're around the house. So it's almost, his little pack that, but so it's hard not to be noticed if you see someone walking that many dogs.
That's so funny. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's such a, like, symbolically, they were all trying to, in their own ways, kind of fight those roles, those traditional roles that had been assigned to them. And that's probably how he did. Yeah. That's interesting. And with, the dad, it was maybe, and, his, I don't know, maybe he just felt like he needed an escape or with his affair, but.
Yeah. And the woman he chose was completely opposite white, in every way. Like bright red hair, probably not Italian, very pink dress, where his wife is more traditional and just not as
she didn't seem too bright
flashy.
either.
Yeah.
She seemed to be really like, she was so fascinated by him saying he charged people for copper cups and copper pipes and was like, oh, you know everything. She was so fascinated by him. I don't know if that was just an act, but well, obviously it was, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like, just her kind of putting him on to be like, oh, but she seemed kind of ditzy, whereas the mom character seemed very polished and very much like a private person.
You know what I thought was interesting about the mom? How it was almost like she was on this mission to find out how men think and why they do things, by asking like the John Mahoney character and asking, then asking everybody, like why do they?
That is interesting. Yeah. She asked John Mahoney and then she asked Johnny, right? And Johnny said something about the rib, Adam and Eve, and the biblical kind of stance. And that is really interesting. I think she was kind of conducting her own like survey of like, what is the answer to this? I just don't get this. Why do men do this? Why is this accepted as a pattern of, like, what's the reasoning behind this? Because it makes no sense.
Yeah. I found Johnny's answer very aggravating.
Yeah, it was very, like they're missing something. We're just a little piece of them internally. And I know that biblically that can be interpreted that way.
But yeah, how he said it was just very much like, I don't know, it felt like ownership to me. I don't know. It's just very, I don't know. It just felt very...
Well, he's someone I think that's accepted a lot of ideas presented to him. He's adult, he's a dope. And so he probably just was, and I am not at all saying if anybody believes that they are.
Yeah,
I'm just saying
just his character and how he said it.
Yeah, I think he's very annoying. Like, whatever's presented to him is what is real kind of thing. Right. So he just kind of accepted that and didn't really question that. And that was his only answer. He never really like actually critically thought about it. But yeah, I found this so interesting with the family dynamics and the use of the moon as a symbol of this is people's, the moon struck the night when the big moon and the bright luminescence, everybody could kind of show their true nature. And that was kind of something that made them happy.
Yeah. And it is a different spin because a lot of times, like movies in the past, the moon, like there's werewolves, Dracula, this and that, like where it's a different feeling. And this is like, okay, well, we're going to do the symbolic nature of the moon, which there is a lot of, you mentioned superstitions and stuff. And, that some people even feel like, like you crystals on the windowsill to recharge them. People feel different ways or have different energies or, there's always the jokes if you work in the hospital, you work in, you're going to have a lot more patience or action if you're
mental health too.
Yeah, definitely. It's, and so it is interesting that they made the movie around how people feel based on the mood. Like, is it, I just thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah, that is really, it's because it is in and of itself a superstition, but it turns out to be something very revealing for each character and for the roles that they're kind of assigned. And I think that's what's really cool about it is it was a nice way of demonstrating that. It took us back to the 80s. The accents were glorious, and then seeing those kind of actors that are, were in their 60s or I remember they were, on the Golden Girls as like extras and things like that. And I would see them and I was like, oh my gosh, this is where they come from. They're like, these actors back in this era. But then, later on, they probably appeared on the Golden Girls as like one of the girls' love interests or whatever. And, but all these kind of like, really authentic, I think, actors, like those actors that come from like a different era, that really kind of hone their craft, really are, really engross themselves in their role kind of
it's
thing.
Very, and it's a lot of people who like you look and like they went on to play like Wolves and Godfather and different things. So they really embraced being portrayed as like Italian American actors, a lot of them.
Yeah. Although some of them I think were Greek, like Olivia Dukakis, and Jewish, kind of some of the similarities there. And it was really nice because some of them, it may have been their actual accents, like they're like authentic or what they heard from their parents, kind of thing. So I really love that. And I love seeing the shots of authentic New York and seeing like the old delis and, even the last names. I think Loretta's last name was like Castriani and she was marrying somebody who was like Compareri or something, and it was like pretty similar. And I don't know, I loved that. And some of the cheesiness that we you could get away with movies in the 80s and just seeing those elements in there, I think it was great all around. Definitely one of my favorites, and Cher's in it, so it's always
and
good.
It's fun. It's and it makes you think about family dynamics, family relationships, how they because it's not just the husband and wife, it's how their relationships affects their daughter, how then the aunt and uncle are involved. It's very enmeshed. But it can be unhealthy, but then it also turns out to be very healthy because they are very supportive at the very end too. You realize how much they all do love each other and care about each other.
Yeah, for sure. That last scene where they're all at the table and things just come out, people are kind of revealing what they think, who they are, what they've been doing, with the affair with the dad, with Loretta, and the mom just saying like, I want you to stop, just kind of confronting it. The father, the old man with the dogs, him just saying, I have to come clean. You should pay for the wedding. And, Olympia Dukakis is kind of holding her breath like, oh my God, is he going to, but he's just like, that's the type of person that he is. He has dignity and he's just going to speak on the fact that you should pay for your daughter's wedding. Like that's who he is.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Earlier when he went to the funeral of a friend, like with all his dogs, and he was telling his friends, like, I really want my son to pay for this wedding. Like he should. So, so it does show that the grandfather had deep conversations or really felt deeply.
Yeah. Like he wasn't, he may have felt invisible, but he certainly was participating emotionally very much in the element of the overall family and was there and he spoke on it. And then even the aunt and uncle coming in and being like, we Do you have something to say? Like kind of confronting Loretta forgets to make a bank deposit for them and, kind of them saying that. They're like, we didn't think anything. But of course,
they did. Why else would they
did.
come to the like you wouldn't come to the house all like, we're coming together and accusatory unless you think someone stole like, your money. I thought she stole it too at first. Because all of a sudden she's dyeing her hair and she's getting all these clothes and stuff. Where'd she get that?
Yeah, she got all these the new outfits and like the red heels or whatever and the red nail polish. She got everything done.
Yeah, she got all the stuff.
Yeah. That actually would have been an interesting tie-in, but I don't know where that would have went. But I think it was just like everybody was coming clean. The moon kind of showed that, how they look different. They're kind of making comments like, you look like an angel in the light, or this, you look, I think the uncle's wife, the aunt said something like, you look 25 years old in the light of the moon.
Yeah, then he was really happy and it was good. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it was a great way to show how I think families can, at certain points, they can learn to accept other things about their family members if they can learn to accept it about themselves. And there's these built-in superstitions that kind of help it along the way, which fits in so nicely with those New York Italian accents that I just enjoy. I loved it.
And it would be nice, like if families were able to have conversations, because those weren't really tough conversations. Those are just like, yes, the mom told the husband, like, stop having an affair. But the rest were like, you know what? Let's just be honest. Let's just talk to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost kind of, to me, it felt very therapeutic, that last scene. I was like, wow, everybody's just coming clean and they don't have to hide this. They don't have to worry about this. And, Loretta can pursue actual love as opposed to just marrying this dolt who she doesn't like. And I just can't think of a different word for him, dolt. Like, I don't know, that's just dope.
Yeah, just kind of, he felt very, I don't know, like kind of milquetoast, kind of just like he's there.
Yeah.
Kind of get annoyed each time he's in a scene. At least I did. It's just like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's just, he's going to do something really ridiculous. And, when the father says something like, oh, watch your back or something, he kind of warns him because he knows that his daughter is seeing someone else. And he's like, make sure you can see everything. And he's like, I'm seeing right now. He just takes things so literally, and it's just like, it's painful, again, you're like, oh man, come on. Okay, we get it. This guy is not smart. Yes, we know. But yeah, so I think that this is a classic. If you haven't seen it in a while, like me, I think the last time I saw it, I was 7, 8, 9, I don't know. And it was on TV, and it was probably the first time it was on TV or something like that. I don't know. But it was playing, and I did not remember. I took completely different meanings. I don't think I took any meaning from it. It was just, that's a New York movie, and Nicolas Cage is a werewolf. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember seeing it because my mom was like from New York and, half Italian. And so like, I remember very much, it felt like I was like, okay, this could have been people that, was in her family or whatever. But I remember sitting on the couch watching it with my mom and family for the first time. I didn't remember a lot of it. I remember the essence of it. I remember that there was a moon. I remember there was like something happened with Cher. I actually thought that there was singing in it, but there wasn't. I don't know. I was like, okay, is there going to be a singing? Not that it was a musical, but I just expected different things, but it was good. I was really happy to see Nicolas Cage's acting. But it was fun.
To hear him.
Yeah. But it was a fun movie. I'm glad we chose this. And it does have a nice display of different family dynamics, relationships, what not to have in a relationship, how to have a relationship, what people think male, female roles are, which they don't have to be, and I thought it was very good.
Yeah, for sure. And being true to understanding yourself as well as other people, I think that was really reflected all throughout. And just that Cher and Olympia, they are just amazing. And Nicolas Cage is always entertaining just because he's him.
Yeah. I heard he does like method acting too. So he probably really got into,
oh my gosh.
I don't know if that was.
I can totally picture that with him. I can picture him shadowing some Italian family, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Nicolas Cage. I'm gonna be following you because I need to do this. I'm gonna be in a really important movie." And they're like, "Get away from me.
We don't
You're
all
scaring
wear.
me."
We don't all wear. I've got called
White tank top.
Yeah, white tank tops. They're gonna overwhelm me. But yeah, we don't all wear that. We're not all stereotypical. Come on.
Yeah. And that scene when he's in the basement when Cher or Loretta first meets him. I think when I was younger, this is or maybe I'm mixing up another movie that he was in. I thought the reference to the moon and then the way he looked, I thought maybe he turned into a werewolf. That's what I associated this movie with. And I was like, I don't know where this fits in. Maybe he was a werewolf in another movie.
I feel like he was a werewolf. I mean, not in this movie.
Yeah, like it's just the reference of him being a wolf, like symbolically.
I don't know. I feel like he has been a werewolf before. I mean, he's been a Ghost Rider. I mean, I'm sure he's been
I'm sure he's been a wolf before, like a werewolf or whatever. Yeah. I think I mixed up this movie with another one where he was, and I just thought like, oh, the moon, so maybe this is the one. Like, that's literally what I remembered. But I was like, I remember really liking it for some reason, and so I'm so glad that I revisited it because I got that straightened out in my brain and. I don't like picturing Nicolas Cage as a werewolf, honestly, but
now I feel like I need to find out if he ever was one.
I think he was. I think I maybe mixed up this movie with another one, but I just remember really liking it. So I'm so glad when we were like, that's like a good one.
Yeah, because we both chose this originally because we were feeling nostalgic and we were like, what is some things that make us think of, we're like Cher. Cher makes us think of our childhood and
for sure. Yeah, 80s. She embodies the 80s, 90s, 2000s. She's the world.
Current.
Love her.
Yeah. Her and Dolly love their wigs.
Oh, yes, Dolly. Oh my gosh. Those like dream combo. Yeah. They're just great. Yes. Oh my gosh. So, well, we love this movie. We love Cher. We had so much fun discussing this. We appreciate you all coming in. Let us know what you think about this episode.
We love Cher. So
Cher got us going. I was so excited to watch this and talk about it. And honestly, Nicolas Cage, just how Nicolas Cagey he is,
Yeah, I do wonder, this must have been his first movie.
It was probably one of the first, because he was pretty young. And I think he started kind of late. Do you know he's a Coppola? Francis Ford Coppola, the director, the Coppolas in Hollywood? Yeah. He's Francis Ford Coppola's son.
What?
Yeah. He changed his name to Cage because he wanted to... Or he went by Cage because he wanted to like make it on his own. Like that's what he's known for is like that he did not want his family name getting him in. And so he got all these quirky projects and everything like that.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
He like made it. I mean, I'm sure he probably had some connections.
Yeah, I'm sure Dad awareness helped him. I'm sure, but that's interesting. Yeah, I had no idea.
But he really didn't want that. Like he wanted to do it on his own. And he definitely has made a name for himself. I mean, for sure. Whether it's just because of his particular unique style, but he's the son of... I was reading up about that and I remember knowing that he came from a very wealthy family and he kind of wanted to not use that.
I just checked Wikipedia. Yeah, that's interesting.
Isn't that amazing? That's really... I thought that was such a cool thing, like to just know. And I know that's probably what a lot of people do know, like they know he kind of he tried to not get the Nepo baby kind of thing going. He was trying not to get those, like he really wanted to do this on his own. I gotta say, I applaud that. I think that's pretty cool that he really was like, hey, I'm gonna... Because he easily could have been like, I'm just gonna use these connections. And, and I'm sure he still had some, but I really think I don't know. He just kind of, he tried to build his name on his own.
So the viewers who are curious, this was Nicholas's third movie. Valley Girl was in 1983. Peggy Sue got married in 1986. And Moonstruck was 1987. And then Raising Arizona, which was the one that I think got him... Or was it Raising Arizona or Leaving Las Vegas? But Raising Arizona was 1987. So I think that was one of the first.
I like that movie. That was a good one. And Peggy Sue Got Married. That's the other. I like that one too.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw the first one, the Valley.
I haven't seen Valley Girl. So I guess I lied when I said I saw all those movies.
Well, that can be your homework now. You'll complete it by...
There are like a million movies though.
Yeah, he's like made a name for himself in like these quirky roles with his quirky style of... He's quirky. Nicolas Cage is for sure quirky. And you gotta love him because he really puts himself out there and he really is just... I mean, there's no one like him, I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with that, we thank you for joining us. And again, let us know if you have anything and Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Psychotherapists. And on Facebook, we are The Wicked Psychotherapists.
Find us wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you can, follow us, hit that follow button, and also leave us a review as well.
Yes, that really helps us out.
And tell your friends.
Absolutely. And don't forget, stay wicked.
And keep your mind well.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
They take the hardware, they broke it. What? I don't know. What?